All right, folks, it's that special time of year where I drink my eggnog, wear my Santa hat, and talk about whatever Christmas stuff I want. But first, how do I flip the camera? How do I flip the camera? Just double tap, double tap. Basically, I wanted to show you guys that. My Christmas lights on my TV. All right. Oh, that's really thick. Eggnog is thick. But first, let's talk about the thing that I was going to talk about. Um, oh no, we're not first. Okay, we're talking about the Santa Clauses. Um, it's not the worst, but it could have been better. Missed potential. It had an interesting idea, but I think their problem was they put it into a show form. They made it 6 episodes long. That ain't it, Chief. That ain't it. I need to mix some eggnog with hot chocolate. That is it, Chief. Eggnog and hot chocolate. Maybe get some peppermint in there. It's over. It's done. That's all you need. It's peppermint hot chocolate. Peppermint eggnog, hot chocolate. Candy cane in there. Oh, I'm feeling Christmassy just thinking about it. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. The Santa Clauses. Uh, should have been a movie. Should have been a movie. There was too much happening. It should have been a movie. Like they could have. I don't know. I just felt like making it a show made it drawn out too long. Not that there was any useless scenes in it, but like it all had to do with the plot. But like it just felt like they could have. Um, sorry, I got distracted. It just felt like there was too much. They could have told the same story much simpler. It was too complicated, I guess, for lack of it. It was they could have made it simpler. It's not that it was complicated, but they could have told the story simpler. They took like the first episode didn't have to be like they could have simplified all of that. And really the second episode, the first 2 episodes could have been condensed and pushed the story quicker, but they just it just felt like it was a lot happening, and it didn't need to. And then I forgot what I was saying. And there was just some cringy things that like, does this really need to be done? Two musical numbers with the elves that I thought like, no, no. Like they did a rendition of "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," girls just want to have fun, but elves, elves just want to have fun. And it was thinking about Christmassy stuff instead of what the actual lyrics were. It's like, oh my gosh. I was laughing. I had to pause from laughing because it was so bad and cringy. But I thought it was funny at the same time. It wasn't needed. It was bad, and it would have been okay without it. You did not need that scene. Um, and then there was another scene where they sang "Last Christmas" by Wham, and I'm just like, no. The context will make sense if you watch it. But like, no, no. That was the first one. The first scene where they sang like "Girls Want to Have Fun with Elves." That was just celebrating. Oh, hey, another successful Christmas. Santa delivered the presents. Yay! But like this one, a little bit more spoiler if I say what happens and why. But anyways, this was just a bad. It was cringy. It could have been. Those scenes were cringy. The overall series had too much happening. Should have made it a movie. And if you, they're probably going to do a sequel season, and try not to complicate it too much, Disney. If you do, because you know what, it could have a second season. It doesn't need to. There's no life like cliffhanger. And then again, the sequels didn't need to be made. This didn't need to be made. There was no like, oh hey, but what happens next? But this opens itself up like what happens in like the end in the last episode lends itself to a potential series, like actual series. This did not the way this story like played out was not episodic. It was a story. It was one long story. It just felt like it was broken up into parts. They put some stuff in there that yeah, it pushed the story along, but like if you took some of the stuff out, if you trimmed some things, you could have just made a movie. It would have been better as a movie. If you change some things up a little bit, it probably would have made a better movie than it did a 6-part special series or whatever. This just was unnecessary. A fourth movie would have been perfect. I would have been so happy if this was a movie, probably. I'm not unhappy with this, but like, in fact, what they should have done was made this into a movie to set up what could be this series. And the title of the Santa Clauses is kind of clever for multiple reasons. One being there were multiple clauses, Santa clauses, you know, like the clauses on the card, like the Santa Claus, the Mrs. Claus, the escape clause, the clause that was in the show that I'm not going to mention. I hate to call it a show. It was a drawn out movie. It was an episodic movie and not in a good way. This could have been told in a much better way. Do better next time, Disney. Just no. Just no. I digress. But also something that happens in the 5th episode that which makes me think of one of the Spider-Man movies, the one where spoilers. I'm not going to spoil anything, but like you know, you know. And there was a character. It was at the end of episode 4. They like ended with a cliffhanger and like, oh, who's that? If they didn't announce that this character, this actor, and this was coming back to play this character, I wouldn't have known. But then they're like, oh, hey, let's set up a cliffhanger, and it's like, oh, so it's this guy. Like they weren't clever enough. The first episode, by the way, didn't make me want to watch more. It just like, oh, okay. But then by the end of the 5th episode, the end of the 5th episode was like, oh, hey, now there's some stuff happening. The first episode was just like, okay, this is like the beginning. Great. What happens next? If they would have condensed it down, made that like a whole scene. It could have been a whole scene. Or like the first 2 scenes of the movie. Then the second one could have been the second 2 scenes. And then, I don't know. I'm thinking, like, I'm comparing it to the second one. The second movie, I should say. And it's like, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more they would have had to restructure everything. And either make things more suspenseful before what happens. I think it's in like the 3rd episode. or just don't. I don't know. Just there wasn't a lot of like the stakes weren't high enough in this the first like 3 episodes. The stakes were not high enough, and I'm just like, okay, where's the problem? Where is the conflict? There was no conflict except for like, oh hey, Scott Calvin has to retire. Okay, well that's not a problem. He's working on that. There's no like, oh, we gotta save Christmas because this is happening. Like in the second and the third one, they had to save Christmas. He had to be married to become Santa to stay Santa Claus, or there was still some kind of conflict with Jack Frost before he takes over as Santa Claus in the third one. But in this, it's like he wants to retire. Okay, and then this conflict comes in the last half, and that's not good storytelling. There's nothing that makes me want to stay and like, well, what's going on? What? How are they going to get past this? It's like, oh, he just wants to retire. Oh, okay. Well, then let's get to him retiring. And then conflict happens. Just there was nothing really like. Yes, the story was technically moving forward, but there was nothing like no need. I don't know. It just wasn't good, in my opinion. That part wasn't good. Could have been better as a movie, but I do see how they can make a sequel, like new seasons of this. They now have set up season 2 or whatever because of how the conflict got resolved. It lends itself to a sequel, but that's all I'm going to say. Um, I think that's everything. Thank you for watching. This is my second take. The first one got cut off, so I'm going to try cutting it off before it cuts me off.